welcome to Harper Broadcast. I'm Amrita Tripathi in conversation today with Eddie Redmayne. Thank you for joining us on Harper Broadcast. Let's talk a little bit about the moment that we are right now. HarperCollins India is turning 25. HarperCollins globally has been publishing since 1817. These are huge landmark moments. What are your thoughts?
HarperCollins globally has been published since 1817. That was the launch of Harper Brothers in America. The Collins business was launched in 1818 in Glasgow, and the two were actually put together in the 1980s. So I think it's a huge year for us, obviously. It's particularly a huge year for India. Publishing here for the last 25 years, this is a country with enormous literary heritage, and in that time some of the great literary writers have emerged out of HarperCollins. And it's been a fantastic thing. So celebrating that, it's also, I think, a year of enormous change in your publishing world, in the Indian publishing world. I think that the great sort of literary focus that has been is still there, but there's this burgeoning commercial fiction market that is also growing, and I think it's an enormously exciting time for HarperCollins in India, and indeed for publishing in India as a whole.
So do you see a sort of shift in focus, perhaps, in terms of strategy and marketing, or is there always going to be a commitment to maybe?
I don't think there's going to be a shift in focus at all. I mean, the literary fiction and serious non-fiction publishing that we've always done remains as important today as it ever has, and has a huge audience. I think what has changed is that we're broadening what we're trying to do, and I would love for HarperCollins to be reaching new audiences, particularly in commercial fiction, and also in children's publishing as well. I'd love to see us discover some really great homegrown children's writing talent. I think a lot of the books that we're selling into the children's market are terrific books from international authors. I'd love to see some brilliant Indian authors really getting to the top there as well.
No, sure, that would be exciting. I mean, we're talking about children's writing. I do have to ask you, you did launch and run J.K. Rowling's Pottermore. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? And that was it was such a novelty at the time.
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, it was a great job to do because, how bad can you be if you're working with Harry Potter? Because actually, it's such a fantastic set of books by such a fantastic writer that really it's very difficult not to succeed. So I had been working at HarperCollins in America. I left to go and work with Joe. It was a tremendous opportunity to do that. And we built the website Pottermore. We also made ebooks available for the first time, and on our own ebook platform. But we also thought about how to tell stories on different platforms, producing some really great products. There was a product we did with Sony called The Book of Spells, which was a book that Joe wrote, which was about 20,000 words long, but as opposed to publishing it as a book or an ebook, it was published as an augmented reality experience on PlayStation 3. Wow. So the child would sit and open a plastic book object and hold a control and be transported onto the screen where they'd be sitting in Hogwarts holding a wand, and it was a reading experience. And that for me as a parent who had found myself over the years going, God, I wish they'd get away from that screen and just read a book, actually to go and make a book that was on a screen was a brilliant thing, and using all the interactivity that surrounded it. So look, it was great fun, and working with J.K. Rowling was a great privilege as well. And
there's of course another connection. You have a very famous brother who acted in Fantastic Beasts quite recently.
The far less good looking and less talented member of the family. Eddie. Well, that was a complete. I mean, really, that was nothing to do, obviously, with me.
But quite a coincidence. I mean, the same sort of ecosystem in a way.
It was a complete coincidence.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was at Pottermore, these scripts were around. I never for a moment thought that Eddie would be getting that part. But look, I think they're brilliant films.
Yeah.
It shows the imagination that Joe has as a writer. And actually, I'm pretty proud of the performance that he gave, and I think it shows his ability as an actor as well.
But speaking of Harry Potter, it was such an interesting moment because I think even publishers here in India, a lot of people were saying who's going to be the next J.K. Rowling. So are these moments in publishing where you see, of course there's a lot of interest now in children's fiction, and perhaps it's also because someone has shown that there's a huge market for it, a lot of interest, and appetite for it.
Well, children's publishing is something that we've done and has been very focused on over the years, and I think we've got some amazing emerging talent. Who's the next J.K. Rowling? I don't know. I frankly, there was only ever one J.K. Rowling.
Exactly.
But I think there are some brilliant authors emerging. In the UK, we have David Walliams, who just sells the most phenomenal amount of books in the UK. Also in Australia, also now here, and also now in America as well. He's a brilliant storyteller, and I think that world that great children's writers create, where children can lose themselves in a book, is the most fantastic thing. I will always remember my daughter, who is now 19 and at university and reading very different types of books, but when she discovered reading for the first time at the age of 11, and it was a book called Arthur, King of Britain by Michael Morpurgo, and she couldn't do anything but talk about it and tell me about it, and she cried about it, and when it was finished she was completely desolate about it. And to see that in a child is the most fantastic thing. So I'm very passionate about children's publishing. I think we do it well.
I do want to ask you, it's been a very interesting career in publishing. I read this article The Guardian did a few years ago, quoting you. Quite memorably, you said that publishers have to take that sort of space back in terms of content. And we are going to be talking about this a little bit more later on. But what do you think the big challenges are, really, for traditional publishing at this point?
Well, I think there are many challenges. But I think the fundamentals of a publishing business don't change, because it doesn't matter how clever you might think you are in terms of digital marketing and digital product development and data analytics and all the other things that we're doing in our businesses. But if you haven't got great books at the heart of what you do, then you really haven't got anything. It's all about the stories and the authors that write those stories. So, publishing companies, I think, remain as they always have done, which is about having great editorial talent, working with great authors. And then you have to add some different things. Then you have to add some new skills that are more about the emerging stuff around it. But those skills are about amplifying those voices. They're not about the creation of that content. So, we're content-driven businesses. We're all about our authors. But goodness me, we need to market in different ways. We can tell stories on different platforms, and we can reach our audiences in different ways too.
What has been, this is going to be tough in the sense that, just if you want to pick something from more recently, but some of the most memorable or best moments from your career in publishing, what keeps you going?
Goodness me, what a question. I love working in publishing. I came into publishing in 2008, having run internet businesses and digital businesses. And I was really brought in to kind of do ebooks and stuff. And I didn't know publishing. I loved books, but I wasn't overly interested. It was more about an interesting challenge. I've loved working in publishing, largely because some of the people that you meet. I think that publishing I've worked in lots of industries that have the nicest people. Also, and most importantly, I get to work with authors. And authors are fascinating and wonderful, and they're storytellers. And the thing about authors is that most of them are really nice, and even when they're not, they're blinking interesting. So I've loved my time in it really across the board, and I've never looked back. And for me, it's the people that I work with, the products that we create, which I'm passionate about, and also the people who create them, authors. And working with them has been an enormous privilege.